guys. So I'm on the sofa with Lloyd, who is standing for the position of Student Development here at our Students' Union. So just before we begin, I would like to tell us a little bit about yourself. So what are you studying and why are you standing for Student Development?
Okay, so in my final year of a psychology degree, I'm also on the committee of mixed hockey, and I'm running for student development because I love the idea of being able to help the student groups and oversee the running of them, because they're such an important part of university. And it's also about employability, making sure everyone leaves with the same opportunities for employability and boosting their own CVs. And let's face it, the experience of societies and sports and also the employability benefits you get from university are two of the main reasons that people come to uni. So I think it's an important job and I'd like to be involved with it.
So would you encourage more students to get involved with more societies and more student groups?
I think so, yeah. I think the more you get involved with it at uni, the better your experience, because it enriches your experience. In my first year, I was just I was a member of the Band and Gig Society, and that was great fun. I got a band out of it and played a couple of gigs. But in the second year, I also joined mixed hockey, and it just seems like the more you join, the more fulfilling the experience is.
Yeah, so more just a social development, would you say?
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. And then there's also the employability benefits that come with having been on committees of these positions, of these groups as well. So just a large benefit to personal development.
Okay, so there's been a considerable decrease in voter turnout over the past year in regards to Union Council. It actually decreased by 35% from 2014 to 2013. So what makes you think that people will actually vote, and why should people care and be engaged in union politics?
People should really care and be engaged, because especially for these positions, because these are positions that have been running their whole union, and the union's there to represent their views. And if they don't vote, then they're not having their views represented. That's how you get your views across. I also, if I get elected, I'd like to give more opportunities for students to share their views and opinions with the sabbatical team, just to to increase that level of representation of the student body.
Okay, so since the start of the election, now there's been a decrease of 35% from 20 to 13 in a number of candidates actually running for these elections. So what is your reaction to this, and why is it so? Now, does it indicate a lack of interest in union politics?
The reduction of candidates?
Yes, sure.
I think a lot of people may have signed up for it in case they wanted to do it, or may not have appreciated how intense the campaign was going to be.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that so many people applied in the first instance, and at the start I was running against 6 other people for this position, I think that shows that they were interested in the politics and they're interested in improving their union. But I think maybe they weren't quite as committed to going through with the campaign, because it is an intense process.
It is.
But obviously it's not too bad for us if more people drop out.
That's very true, but in terms of like the number of people, like the greater the number of people, the more democratic it will be, and the more it will be good for you, because you get scrutinised in your policies.
Absolutely.
So do you not think like the halving of your category is a cause for concern?
I think it's a shame in terms of the students having less choice, because if now it's down to just the 3 of us, the students haven't got as many people to choose from. So there's so many less manifestos to scrutinise, and so many less candidates that they can choose to represent them. Which, I suppose it means that they're less likely to be able to be represented as fairly. No. Can I try that bit again?
Say your answer again. So the question I asked you, I can't remember what I asked you. I asked you about the halving of your category. So the cause is it a cause for concern for democracy?
I think it is a cause of concern for student democracy, because the voters have now got a lot less people to choose from in terms of candidates. So they've got less manifestos, less policies that they can choose, and it just means that they're not going to be, their decisions aren't as representative of their views, because they don't have as much choice.
Okay, that shouldn't really matter though, because you represent the student body, I assume?
I'd like to think so. I've been talking to students throughout the whole process of creating my manifesto. I'd like to think I'm aiming for what students want. I've looked at the market research done by the university over the years as well, and tried to aim it towards what the students want. And also I'm a student myself, so I hope I'm represented in that way, but obviously we all are.
Okay, so there are currently 14 sabbatical positions. Now 5, as you know, are being contested this month. Now, do you not think there are too many positions? And surely this conflict of interest impedes effective union policy?
What do you mean by the conflict of interest?
So by conflict of interest, I mean, considering there's 14 positions, do you not think that gets in the way of actually putting clear and coherent policy through if everyone's advocating their own corner?
Like a too many cooks kind of thing?
Yeah.
I think obviously the splitting of the 4 into the 5 for the exec sabbatical positions has been good this year, because the one that was split, the experienced officer, was quite a broad position last year. And I think splitting into wellbeing and student development has been a good way forward. The rest of the positions, I think a lot of the new ones, or more recent ones, are the liberation officers, and I think they're extremely important, obviously, because it ensures the representation of groups that might not be represented as well or as fairly without them. So I think...
so you'd keep all of the liberation posts?
Absolutely, yeah.
You think they're extremely vital to the students' union?
I think, yeah, they provide a good opportunity for the union to be able to scrutinise its own policies and its own procedures, so that it's representative of not just the majority of students, but for all students.
Okay, so it's going to talk a little bit about student development now. So sports are a neglected part of student life. Now it's compulsory for anyone engaging in sports to buy a sports membership card and to be a membership of society. Now, students representing the university or playing outside, do you not agree that there should be a bit of leniency towards those that are required to represent the university? And what is your view, and how do you suggest improving the current situation?
Sorry, I don't quite understand the outside bit.
Sorry, it's a very long question, so the questions can get muddled. Okay, so sports are a neglected part of student life. It's compulsory for anyone engaging in sports to buy a sports membership card and to be part of that society. Now, as students representing the university when playing outside, so outside of university, do you not agree a bit of leniency is required to those representing the university? So what is your view, and how do you suggest improving on the current situation?
Is that in terms of buying the
Yes, in terms of the membership and what it costs to be a membership society, do you not think for what they're doing for the university it should require a bit more leniency?
Right, okay. Firstly, I think the gym membership prices are incredibly high. Just 3 years ago, they were less than half what they are now, and even less before that. So they've shot up, and I think that might be an unnecessary shoot up in prices. It's since they've redeveloped the gym and acquired the Daniel Brown Sports Centre, and it seems as if the university are trying to just get students to pay for that rather than it coming out of any of the university budget areas. So I think we are paying too much for the gym membership, especially when it comes to having to have it, to join the sports societies. I don't think much more lenience can be made in paying to join the individual sports societies themselves, because that money is needed by those clubs, because the university won't give the union enough money to be able to fund its sports entirely.
So would you campaign to see the sports membership card prices lower?
Absolutely.
So what's your preferred ideal? Would you do like monthly costs, or?
I think the overall annual pricing needs to be brought down, and I think they need to commit to a few years of it at least not rising.
So do you have any ideas how you'd fund that?
I think more funding needs to come from the university itself. Obviously the union budget is stretched as it is, but only about £45 of our £9,000 fees at the moment go to the union, which is a shockingly low amount when you consider how much we're spending and how little of it comes back to us.
Okay, so I'm just going to move on to your manifesto now. So what is your #1 priority if elected?
My #1 priority is ensuring that all students are offered the same opportunities for student development, and that the student development... I can try that again.
Yeah. So I'm just going to move on to your manifesto now. So what is your #1 priority if elected?
My #1 priority is to ensure that all students are offered the same opportunities for student development, where possible, of course, and that the union is running its sports and societies fairly.
So how would you do that?
I think there's a number of instances where the running of sports and societies and general development opportunities isn't quite fair. Some departments, for example, run an excellent year abroad scheme where students can go over to far-flung places and have a great experience there. But obviously there's so many departments that don't offer this. I'd really like to see, if not all departments offer a year abroad, or at least a placement or a term in industry. And I'd like to see them all offer that, or at least explain to the students why they can't offer that themselves as a department. I also think that the grant funding in terms of sports needs to have be looked over, because at the moment it's arranged into very broad categories, whether it be Bucks Plus or non-Bucks teams. But especially within the non-Bucks, there's such a range of sports with different levels of engagement, and I don't think it's quite fair to say that they should all have exactly the same funding. I think it should be more of a case-by-case basis, so that all the sports are getting the funding that they need.
So would you like introduce like a comprehensive review of each society?
I think the funding needs to be reviewed in that each club needs to be done on a case-by-case basis, as it is for societies.
Yeah. Okay, so after reading your manifesto, now you seem pretty keen in wanting to listen to students' concerns and wanting to ensure the best possible experience for them at university. Now, one way you suggested to do this in your manifesto was to create a termly feedback collection system between your students and yourself. Now, currently, the change it or explain it policy serves to encourage students to submit their own ideas to improve how the union is run. So my question to you is this: will you keep change it or explain it? Will you keep change it or explain it? And if so, do you have any ideas to improve it to ensure students will always be listened to?
I really like the change it or explain it policy. I would definitely keep that. I think it's a really good step forward, because it means that if students have a concern or a question, then it means that if it can't be explained, if there's no reason why it's that way, then it means that they're getting it will be changed. So. But I also think with the feedback, it would be more of an email-based survey, termly sent out to the students, because as you say, the engagement with union and union politics is shockingly low and decreasing. So by sending out an email,
I think it kind of re-establishes a connection between executive officers and students.
Yeah, and in the past and in recently even, there's been quite a sense among students that the executive team are quite separate from the students and quite stuck within this little bubble that we don't seem to hear anything about.
Exactly.
So I don't think it shouldn't all be going on behind closed doors. There should be more...
more transparency.
Exactly, more transparency. Yeah. We should be hearing what the exec team are getting on with and how they're doing with it.
Okay, so just one final question. So what will you do to improve the democratic accountability of the executive officers to Union Council?
I think a lot more disclosure. I think the union executive officers need to be regularly explaining to the Union Council what their aims and objectives are at the current time, how they're getting on with those aims and objectives, and also taking scrutiny for those aims from the Union Council. There needs to be regular opportunities for the Council to be able to ask the officers, why are you doing that? Why aren't you doing this? Why? And is it going to work? Yeah. Just to make sure that the students are getting the best deal out of university and out of their union.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Lloyd.
Thank you very much.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.